Hey, this is Josh Ramsey. I'm one of the founders of Prosper Hotels. We support over 300 hotels in North America with revenue management, performance marketing, group housing, and revenue management reports. And, I just find the hotel business so interesting. It supports over 2 million jobs in the US, and there are so many different aspects to owning and running and growing a hotel that I just want to curiously explore that with friends of mine. And that's my goal with this podcast. It's called Unpacking. And today I'll introduce you to a friend of mine named Grant Guinn. I think he's a great first guest because he owns one hotel, True by Hilton in Spokane Valley. And he worked for the brand for a really long time. And so he's got this depth of experience from running things at the brand level that then he stepped in to own and operate his own hotel. And I think he's got a lot of really interesting insight. So I remember, I guess maybe it was shortly after the pandemic, and I saw you at I think it was an owner conference or something.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
you and your son were like headed to dinner, and you're like, hey, just come sit with us and
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
meal. And
I think it was at the Hunter conference in Atlanta we did that or
that's
something.
right.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
what it
it
was.
was. I always love like spending time with you because you embody this hospitality as a value. I just appreciate that so much.
Sure. You're quite welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a good journey for sure.
There's just this level of respect and love and appreciation for you and what you do as an owner of the hotel that you have. And I think is, yeah, very, very special. I just wanted to say that. I think what you're doing is special.
It's not easy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's a little different for us because we have one hotel, 192 room True in Spokane Valley, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we're from. We live
Yeah.
here. It's just our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for us to have that culture of appreciation and respect with our team members because we run into these team members when we're at Lowe's or at Home
Mm-hmm.
Depot or we're
Yeah.
at the park or
Yeah.
we're at some sort of event here in
Mm-hmm.
town. And it's important for us to know, or important for me to know, what's their name, what's their
Mm-hmm.
story, what are
Mm-hmm.
their kids' names, what are their grandkids' names.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier for us to do that with one or two hotels versus some of these big companies. You just
Mm-hmm.
lose some of that. We really spend a lot of time one-on-one with these team members at the hotel, infusing a culture of caring and compassion
Mm-hmm.
to understand their story and help them on their career journey. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time, and we put a lot of money towards that, but it pays off.
Yeah. Yeah, there is this some people I would say probably see that okay, there's a game to play in terms of making money with hotels. And I'm going to play that game, but it becomes something about just squeezing as much as you can out of this thing. Where like
Right.
what I see like for you is this matters to me and I'm going to put everything I've got into it and do it well and take pride in it, and this is an extension of or an embodiment of who I am and what I value, and I'm going to have high standards and take great care of my people and do it well. I think
That's
it's like a
exactly it,
different
because
thing.
we all see these larger companies or REITs that they buy these assets, and then you're right, they just actually squeeze them dry and then they flip them and disrupt people's lives and move on. But they make a
Yeah,
lot of money at it. It's just not
right.
our approach. Our approach is this is ours. We're getting ready to do a second hotel.
Mhm.
We care about it. It's local for us. And then we'll just
Yeah,
continue to grow slowly in kind of this regional area. Some,
yeah,
in markets that I can drive to,
yep.
but I'll have to get on a plane and go
Mhm,
and we'll hold these, right? These
mhm.
aren't things that we're looking to flip in 5 or 7 years necessarily. We'll hang on to these because it's turning into a legacy company where
Yeah,
we've got kids in the business and
yeah.
they're enjoying it, and maybe some grandkids eventually will be in the business.
Mhm,
So yeah,
mhm.
you're right. We're just getting started. It's a lot of fun. We're learning a lot. My wife and I like to say that we spent a whole lot of money in marketing research to find out what the perfect name of the company is,
Yeah,
when in reality, it was like a 5-minute conversation. Oh, we need to create a company. Let's just G, Grant, L, Lisa. We've got 8 kids. Okay, GL8 Hospitality. That's how it is. So,
that's great.
yeah, that's how it came to be.
Uh-huh,
So
and
it
how many
it
of
took
these
very
8
little effort to come up with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How many of the 8 are part of the
Yeah,
company now?
two out of the 8. Yeah, so
Okay.
we're a blended family. Yeah, 4 and 4. So we
Uh-huh.
have with 8 kids, which is fantastic. 7 boys and a girl. But we have 2 in the business. One is our asset manager, and one is our front desk supervisor because he's still in college and has about another
Mhm.
year to go. And both of them have attended a few of the different conferences with me and on
Yeah.
their own, and
Yeah.
have really embraced the industry and really seem to like it. So you never know.
Mhm.
There might be a couple more that jump into it eventually once they see
Yeah.
how much fun we're having and what we're learning along the way. But right
Yeah.
now, there's just 2 in the business.
I'd love to hear a little more of your journey. I know you from Hilton originally, and you were a senior director of brand
Grand
performance
performance, yeah, for
for
Hilton Garden Inn.
Hilton
Yeah.
Garden. So you were at the brand for quite a while, a long time.
A long time. My career being a Hilton employee,
Mhm.
a real Hilton employee was over 20 years, a little over
Yeah,
20
that's what
years.
I thought. Okay.
Yeah, but it started with back in the Red Lion days, honestly, back
Yeah.
working on property at a Red Lion
Mm.
in 96 and then got gobbled up by DoubleTree in 97 and then went to work at a second DoubleTree hotel and then uprooted my family and moved to Boise, Idaho and worked at the DoubleTree, the Hilton managed DoubleTree in that market.
Mhm.
And then it was Hilton managed, but it flipped to be a franchise a couple of years after I got there. And I just didn't want to work for that specific franchise. And so I applied at the Hilton corporate office at the time in Beverly Hills and got on with them as a regional director of brand performance support for the Northwest region for Hilton Garden Inn and really enjoyed it. And
Mm.
it really took
Mhm.
off and got to understand and be the brand, which is, you may hear it's my comments throughout this podcast, is just be the brand. You don't have to be
Mm.
anything but the brand that you are, because that's what you're buying into. So I bought into that for
Mm.
20 years of be the brand. I was the Hilton Garden Inn guy for the Pacific Northwest and then did that for, I think, for about a year and a half. And then became the director of brand sales support. So the brand sales guy, not selling franchises, but really supporting the different hotels around the country. At the time, we think we had about 140 or so Hilton Garden Inns in 3 countries. And we were like, all right, we're starting to grow all these Hilton Garden Inns. A lot of them have salespeople and we need to give them some attention and let's add this sales support function, which then was the role that I got added into and led the sales conferences, all the sales training, all
Oh,
the,
wow. Okay.
and just became the sales
Yeah.
resource guy within Hilton Garden Inn and did that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years and then switched back to the brand performance support side, the operational support side as the senior
Mhm.
director as the brand really started to take off and launched Garden Inn in Europe. And then ultimately, at the end of my career with Hilton, spent a lot of time in Asia as Hilton Garden Inn grew in China.
Mhm.
We launched the first one
Mhm.
in China. I was there, and as we spread from east to west in China and Indonesia and Vietnam and all those
Wow.
locations, not only oversaw the operations in the Americas for the brand performance, but then also got things going in Asia for Hilton Garden Inn.
Mm.
And it was great. I loved it. And by the time I left, I think we were in like 20 something different countries and about 700 or so hotels. So
Yeah.
to be part of those openings and just the excitement in those hotels just
Mhm.
really set something in motion for myself that I never thought I would do, but got dealt that hand once Hilton restructured for the who knows how many times after 20 years of being there.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
my team and I, the brand performance team, were let go as they consolidated different departments within Hilton. And then it kind of forced me to look at, all right, got to figure out and do something else. And so at the time, short-term rentals were really starting to take off in the country and
Mhm.
short-term rentals on the commercial scale, on just the
Yeah.
bulk scale. And so I joined one of those fast-growing short-term rental companies and led a team where we would go into all the major markets across the US and Seattle and Dallas and LA and Miami and would master lease entire apartment buildings, furnish
Mhm.
them with hotel level furnishings from
Mhm.
companies like Hilton Supply Management,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
take those units and then list them on Airbnb and all the short-term rental sites and run them
Yeah.
like hotels
Yeah.
and under master leases for 5 or 10 years and
Mhm.
So I did that for a couple of years with a company, two different companies. And uh, I learned a lot. I learned about
Yeah.
real estate. I learned about development. I learned about growth. I learned about short-term rental industry, which I quickly realized really just wasn't my industry. I didn't enjoy short-term rentals. There's something about just a transactional experience of providing lodging, which is what short-term rentals
Uh,
do, and providing hospitality, which is what hotels do.
Tell me
It's more than
more.
just a
Yeah.
check-in, check-out experience.
Yeah.
You're there to talk to the customer and greet the customer. You don't get that at short-term rent. And so
Mhm.
did that for a couple of years. And then some consolidation of some of those companies are going in and out of business, and left that industry, and then sat back and said, you know what? For years, I saw some hotel owners that didn't run very good hotels, still make a lot of money despite the fact that they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
I said, if I only know even just part of what I should know, I'll probably do okay with hotels. And at the time, Hilton had just launched the True brand for a first time developer owner is fabulous. And the reason for that is because it's just a hotel and a kit, right? You don't have to have an interior designer. It's just all chosen for you.
Mm.
But I knew the locations after having been part of so many Hilton Garden Inn openings over the years. I knew good locations. I knew good locations then. I knew good locations when I was in the short-term rental industry. So I knew good locations in my own backyard, went out, figured out, okay, how do I buy a piece of land? How do I then get a franchise? And then how do I go about the whole process of
Uh-huh.
securing general contractors, architects, all that sort of stuff, and just really taught myself how
Wow.
to do it. And in November of 2019, broke ground on our True Hotel. And then
Mhm.
in December of 2019, the first time we all heard the word COVID appeared on our TV
Uh-huh.
screens, and we arrived in Seattle. And we
Yeah.
then proceeded to build a True Hotel in the middle of COVID, which was
Yeah.
really interesting, and
Wow.
asking ourselves, what in the world did we do? What did we
Yeah.
get into
Uh-huh.
as the hospitality industry and started
Mhm.
to tank?
Mm.
Probably good timing for us because as we finished up the True 12, 13 months later, we were starting to come out of
Mhm.
COVID, and then
Mhm.
it just took off after that,
Wow.
and just
Wow,
no
wow.
stop. So that's my
Yeah.
career journey from
Yeah.
Red Lion, DoubleTree, Hilton Garden
Oh
Inn,
my gosh.
all the way
Yeah.
up
That's
to
amazing.
our own hotels.
Yeah, I have so many questions. But okay, so like the first thing I would love just what you were just talking about. The what so you said what a good property looks like. What are the things you're looking for if
Yeah.
you finding a good property?
Yeah, more of location, location, location. So
Right?
I knew in my market, we have a city-owned conference center that the closest hotel to that conference center was about a mile and a half away. And
Okay.
it'd been there. It's really a nice facility with 80 acres of undeveloped land right across the street from it, right on
Wow.
the river.
Okay.
And I was
Okay.
like, wow, who owns that piece of property?
Yep.
And could they carve off an acre and a half or 2 acres for me to
Mm.
do a hotel? Because looking at the mall is a mile away. I'd be across the street from a city-owned conference center that's never going to go away.
Mhm.
And then there's other revenue drivers, businesses and industries rather close. And I just knew it was a winner.
What kind of stuff comes into this conference center?
Well, it's 50,000 square feet of meeting space.
Oh,
So
wow.
anywhere from
Okay.
home and garden shows to weddings
Yeah.
to
Oh, wow,
business
wow.
meetings to
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So there was no
Yeah.
place for, and they would have to have meetings, or they would have meetings there, but
Mhm.
then they'd have to get in a car and go drive to the next closest hotel to stay.
Yep.
When I put a hotel across the street so they can walk across the
Yeah.
street to it.
That's amazing.
And knowing that facility, yeah, it's just never going
Uh-huh.
to go away, especially
Right.
if since it's a government owned entity.
Mhm. Okay, so how did you go about figuring out I guess that next part was find out who owns this and let's see if I can pitch them on carving off an
Yeah.
acre and a half.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
How
Yep.
did you do that?
It's funny because the organization or the company that owned that is they own a lot of land in this city, and it's old money in this city.
Okay.
And they just have been sitting on it. And it's what I did. Then I went out and I contacted HBS, and I had them do a market study based on the brand that I thought would be good. I got an architect
Okay.
who did some renderings for me. And
Okay.
then I went and approached the landowner,
Oh, wow.
and
So
I
you
walked
did
to
a
his
like a
office and
study, a feasibility study on
did
this
it
land before you even owned it or to them about it or
right.
anything.
And come to
Okay.
find out, this landowner had other people approach him with ideas. But what sold him on me was that I walked into his office and I showed him,
Wow.
I've studied it. I know it works. Here's the brand that I want to put there. And I'm ready to go. Here's the art. Here's the renderings. So he got on a plane with one of his colleagues. He flew to Boise where there was a True hotel. He toured the hotel to see what it was like and came back and said, okay, I'll sell you the land.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, how much did that cost for
Yeah.
you to do the work of
Yeah.
feasibility plus like architect
Yeah, I would
renderings?
say between the feasibility and the market or the market study and the architect, just initial renderings, probably $10,000
Okay.
just to get the idea
Yeah,
developed
right.
enough that I could show it to somebody in
Wow.
some sort of
Yeah.
document with pretty
Mhm.
pictures and
Mhm.
some numbers associated with it.
And
And
if
have a little
he's
credibility that it's gonna work. He liked it because it was a well-known name, right? The Hilton
yeah,
name.
right.
He wanted this property to be anchored by a reputable brand.
Yeah.
And he'd been approached by some others that wanted to do something else, some other ideas, but he just
Mm.
didn't like the brand. So he said, okay, I'll anchor it. And good for him because he's told me a number of times, Grant, you walked in, you showed me this stuff. And then it kicked off the development for the entire 80 acres because we were the
Mm.
first in, we anchored it.
Yeah.
Um, and then he was able to probably up the price for the rest of the real estate that he
Yeah.
was selling because he had a
Right.
branded property there
Yeah.
uh, on the corner.
That's
And we did
amazing.
a first right of refusal on a second piece of property, a more primary piece of property right on the river, just 2 lots over from my true, which I then secured under a first right of refusal kind of thing, which I've since purchased
Mm.
from him to do a second hotel.
And that
So
was so same owner for that as well.
same
Wow,
owner,
okay.
but it was the original piece of property that I wanted. It was the property
Uh-huh.
that was on the river.
Okay.
My initial thought years ago was, I want to put a
Yeah.
Hilton Garden in there because I was a garden guy. I knew my
Uh-huh.
locations.
Yeah.
And then what changed was Hilton came out with True. And for a first time developer, True was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense it's just an easier build because so much of the work is done for you. So I
Okay.
said, okay, let me buy a secondary lot, which I did, put the True, and then I'll go back, buy the initial piece of property, the prime piece of property that I want, and put the right brand on it, which ultimately has turned out to be, we're doing a Homewood Suites there, not a Hilton Garden Inn, because it
Okay.
doesn't make sense. Didn't make sense to do gardening because with all the meeting space, when I got 50,000 square feet of space across the street. So
Right.
we'll do a Homewood Suites there
Wow.
with its new 10.0 prototype.
That's amazing. And had you already talked to the brand about build or that comes
Yeah,
after?
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Okay.
because I had known not necessarily the brand, but the development team who I knew at Hilton
Okay.
said, "Listen, I'd love to do a True." And there's like, well, if you sign on here soon, you could be the first True in Washington State if you get going. And
Okay.
we
Okay.
sign on right
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
True, and right after or right before the True at Seattle Airport signed on. So it was a race to the finish line. Who could open up first
Mm.
at building during COVID, and we got
Mm.
shut down. They did. It was crazy
Wow.
just because of COVID. But
Yeah.
ultimately we beat them. And
You won the
12 months
race.
and six
Okay.
days built a
Yeah.
True from the day we broke ground to the day we opened. 12 months, 6 days
That's amazing.
in the middle
Even
of
in the
COVID.
middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Okay, so then you have a lot to figure out after that, right? Like you get the land, then you've got to figure out construction. Is that the next
right.
thing? Or what was the
Yep, yep. So all happening at the same time. Okay,
mm,
I'm going to get this. The guy seems like he wants to sell it to me. Okay, who's going to build this thing?
mhm.
Reach out to my owner network, and obviously a lot of Hilton Garden Inn owners I knew. And up in this
Yeah.
part of the country, there was a general contractor out of Montana that had built all the Hilton Garden Inns in Montana and a bunch down in Texas
Okay.
and back east. And so I just reached out to them, and they were a smaller company. They're not a big GC, but I said, hey, this is what I
Mhm.
want to build. They hadn't built a True before. They built at Fairfield by Marriott's and lots of garden inns and
Mhm.
courtyards and things like that.
Right.
But he was the only one I knew that had built hotels before. So
Yeah.
he gave me a price and I went with it. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, that's how I chose
Wow.
him. I didn't even
Wow.
talk to very many,
Uh,
maybe one other, but I didn't know who they were. It was just a random
mhm.
phone call
Mhm.
to some other GC.
Yeah, and that's for you, it seems like a lot of this is very much like you already had this deep level of relationships and trust with people that it makes it easier when you're coming out to do something.
Yeah, definitely. The owner
Mhm.
network that I had has been invaluable to me, really,
Mhm.
because they've coached me along the way.
Yeah.
different ones. They provided different, coaching and advice. And even there were some of them that had already had Trues. And I probably spoke with half a dozen different True owners
Mm.
before I finished the construction documents
Mhm.
for my True. And what did you like? What didn't you like?
The flip side of that relationship thing is I think like you do the same thing, right? Like you work with people that you trust. And so the contractor, it's not worth trying to find the best deal
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
it's about I want to work with someone that I trust
Yeah.
and know that it's going to handle this and do it well.
Yeah. Yeah. We have taken over management of the hotel. So we own
Mhm.
and manage now the
Yeah.
one hotel. And that will be our strategy going forward. We'll be just our own management company because back to what I've said multiple times, it's important for me to be the brand.
Right.
I think the mistake that some of these management companies make is they try to infuse their own culture,
Mm.
which is a culture that they've developed to put across multiple brands.
Right.
But you have to really be the culture of the brand that you are, because a true culture is very different than a Hilton Garden Inn culture, which is different than a DoubleTree Care culture and Hilton's Blue Energy culture or whatever it is.
Mm. Mm.
You have to be the brand. And if you're not the brand, you're trying to be somebody that you're never going to be.
What are some examples of ways that you've asked the team there, like, to be the
Yeah.
brand?
Well, the best known culture in hospitality in the Hilton world, at least out there, is that Hamptonality culture, right?
Sure.
That's out there. But True is all about just being fun, vibrant, spirited, colorful, meaning you walk into that True hotel and there's colors everywhere, right? And you have your team members wearing purple True logoed shirts, which is the brand, with jeans. It's a little bit more
Yeah.
relaxed, a little bit more quirky, a little just different. And that's the culture of being more fun and engaging versus stuffy and buttoned up with your Cintas uniform on. It's
Mhm.
just a
Mhm.
different type of culture. And if you're a larger company and you're trying to infuse a Marriott culture into a True or a Best Western culture into a True, it just doesn't work. It
Yeah.
really just doesn't. So you have to be the
Mhm.
brand. And then the brand does a great job with providing you tools and resources. You're paying the large franchise fees to buy the franchise.
Right.
And it's essential that you be the brand and use the resources. And
Yeah.
so many of these management companies, they don't. And it's to their detriment. They try to do their own version across all
Right.
their hotels
Right.
and
Yeah.
desanitize the whole thing when they
Mhm.
really just need to adopt what they're paying
Mhm.
for to begin with.
Mhm. You want, as a management company, sometimes maybe to try to make it more homogenous across the whole
Yeah.
company. But what can happen then is it comes across as bland across all of it. A lot of times we try to put a company's values on a person to live those values out. But what happens is if you're telling somebody to take the values of that company, then they're not being fully themselves anymore. And so they need to know what they value and they need to know what they care about. And I like what you're saying because you're saying be the brand is like embody the culture of the like where you are. That doesn't mean take on someone else's values. It means let's act out, let's be part of what this was designed to do. How do you do that with your team? Because I've in talking with people on your team can see that they're engaged. I can tell that they feel safe, also that they feel challenged, that they're growing. You're pushing them in a kind, gentle pressure way. Could you talk about that?
Oh,
What does
yeah.
that look like for you?
Yeah. It's okay at our True hotel to be a little bit quirky and just outside the box.
Yeah.
For example, these team members, including myself, have complete ability to stop what they're doing if they see a kid or a teenager or a business person sitting and playing at the pool table in the Hilton lobby and bet them something free out of the market
Yeah.
if their
Yeah.
one person wins, right?
Uh-huh.
Quit play them a quick game of pool,
Yeah.
engage the customer. The
Yeah.
customer beats you, even if they don't beat you
Mm.
at the end of the game, you go and you let them choose something out of the market. You
Yeah.
put it to it's a hotel
Mhm.
expense, and away you
Mhm.
go. I
Yeah.
tell you what, it adds a lot of fun and
Yeah.
excitement and engagement with the customers that we just see nonstop. The feedback is tremendous. It really is.
Yeah. And I think that's also helpful for the customer, like you're saying. There's so much that has been invested in developing a brand that for the customer to feel that experience and the distinction of that specific brand, it's not just about the design. It is also about the service and the interaction and the engagement. And when you try to be something that you're not, it's less memorable, and it's also like confusing, I would say, probably to a customer.
Yeah, it really is. And that's why we're going back to the management company side of things. There's some good management companies out there, but you think about when you bring on a team member and you sit them down in front of the computer and they do their Hilton or Marriott or whatever training, right?
Mhm.
They're told, hey, here is what the brand is. And then they have to go through and do a training for a management company, but here's what your management company is. So then what is the employee supposed to do? Which
Right.
philosophy, which ideals are they supposed to adopt? And
Mhm.
our philosophy is you adopt the brand, right? That's where
Yeah.
you work. When you walk out, you have that uniform on and you are going to be
Mhm.
the brand. And very focused in our world of, and they all know this, is focusing on our real four key areas, and that's driving revenue, encouraging loyalty, doing what we need to do to help those customers be loyal,
Mhm.
increase profitability. What things can we do to make this operation more profitable? And then investing in our team members. Those four things: revenue, loyalty, profitability, and investing in our team members. Because you have happy team members, you have happy customers.
Yeah.
Everybody seems to connect much better when people are happy, for
Mm.
sure.
So those 4 things are what you would say as part of your GL8. Like, these
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
4 things, and these 4
It's what's important to
things.
us. And
Right.
but the way that you make money can be done in different ways. You can
Mhm.
squeeze every penny out of it and just not put any
Mhm.
money into that. That's not our approach.
Right.
Our approach is then encouraging loyalty. What kind of things are we doing to encourage the loyalty of our customers
Mhm.
that they come back to us time after time?
Yeah.
So it's the revenue side, making sure that we're engaged with companies like yourself and the revenue management team at Hilton to drive that revenue on the top, encourage those customers to come back, manage our expenses on the profitability side, do what we need to do to
Mm.
sharpen our pencil there and to just increase the profitability, and then invest in those team members, having a funding committee, which we have at the hotel, and supporting a budget line item that supports growth, training growth, and activity growth for not only our team members, but we pay for their families to come to all of our activities, whether we rent a box at the baseball stadium and for all the team members and all their families, we rent a cruise boat at Christmas time and we cruise
Mm.
across the lake to Santa's Village with our team members and
Ah,
and their
wow.
families. We
Yeah,
do
I love
trail
that.
pickup with our team members and our family and their families.
Mhm.
So it becomes more of a family environment. And like I said, it's not cheap, but it's something that
Yeah.
we've invested and
Yeah.
it seems to have paid off. People enjoy working for us. That's what
Yeah.
they tell me.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
saying, like, we are going to be more profitable by putting this investment in the team, and we're gonna spend the
Right.
money on the box and the cruise.
It just what
Yeah.
we asked them, what can we do in your department, in your area of responsibility
Yeah.
to be smarter? What can we do? Let's talk breakfast. What
Right.
type of things can we do at the serving our complimentary breakfast to allow us to still provide what we're supposed to provide, but make more money in doing it, right? Instead of individual milk containers, go bulk milk. That can save you some money. We weigh our product at the end of breakfast, so we monitor how much waste we have, and we have that set as one of our green initiative goals that we reduce our food waste at the end of the day,
Yeah.
and ultimately that supports profitability as
Yeah.
well. Making sure that we price and manage our market items that we're selling.
Mhm.
Make sure that we price laundry and EV stations and all that sort of stuff appropriately based on what the cost is associated with it. It's just taking a
Mhm.
look at a detailed look at the expenses associated with it and what we ultimately charge the customer and how can we continue to tweak these areas without impacting the satisfaction of the customer.
Where I see it, like, with the team is they also are happy to pursue that with you because it's not that you're pursuing profitability at all cost. They're also benefiting when everybody on the team's benefiting because we're reinvesting this in the community, in the hotel, in the resources for you. Where some folks, it's like, how do we squeeze every last thing out of this?
Yeah.
But that can leave your team at the hotel feeling depleted. And
Yeah.
then that leads to worse service, which leads to lower revenue. That it's this downward spiral. But I love how you're reinforcing it by, because we take such great care of the team, everyone's happy to be creative in the ways in which they find these other opportunities to help increase profitability.
Yeah. And as we took over the hotel a little over a year ago, I asked myself, my gosh, there has got to be a different way to reduce turnover out there than what has been done over the prior few years.
Mm.
And we sat back and said, how can we do this kind of on the profitability side? How can we stop spending so much trying to recruit people and the drug testing associated with it and the background checks and all that sort of stuff, which we require, we do,
Mhm.
which is expensive, but how we can increase profitability by reducing the turnover. What could we do? So we found kind of the secret sauce. At least it works for us. I went out and I tried to find some of these different organizations that are dealing with these refugees that are coming into the country, right? We're talking folks that are displaced because of political or war or whatever it is. And they're coming into the country legally and they're looking for places to stay and places to work.
Mm.
So I went to a couple different of those and had some conversations, but ultimately landed on a partnership with an organization called World Relief,
Mm.
which helps displaced refugees in our community get settled. They provide them with translators and help them find housing and help them find jobs.
Yeah.
And we have had extreme success with reducing our turnover and filling our hotel employee pool or our employee talent with folks that have been referred to us by World Relief. And it's great because these folks come to us. Again, they're legal. They've got all their documents. They're here. They want to work. They show up for work. They're drug free. And they come back and because we treat them well, they refer their friends and other family members to come work for us. And our turnover has just, as we
Wow.
now have our
Yeah.
core and our
That's
base group of
amazing.
folks
Yeah.
from an organization partnership with that company. And we didn't pay them anything. They were thrilled to be able to work with somebody like us
Mm-hmm.
that wanted their employees. And do we have multiple languages talking in the break room? We do, but we use
Yeah.
the phones and we use the apps, the
Yeah.
translation apps, and we make it work.
This is another example of how you are solving problems creatively. I would assume the natural tendency, which is like, oh, why are we having to spend so much on recruiting?
Yeah.
Like you went above instead of below. You didn't try to cut it. You actually solved a new problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Some operators take the approach of, hey, reduce the expense by stop doing the background checks,
Right.
stop doing the drug testing.
Right.
And so it does, that could increase profitability. But our approach was we're keeping those
Yeah.
because we want higher quality employees
Yeah.
working for us,
Yeah.
but we can reduce the turnover by providing a good place for them to work and partnering with a company that has a talent pool of folks that want to work and are willing to work.
Yeah. Yeah. I have so many more things to ask you, but I think maybe we can do another one soon if you're open to it.
To
And
grow
so
that
you
path.
think there are still markets that need a new hotel to be built, like a branded property that would get enough demand
In the
here?
market in the region that I'm in,
Yeah.
maybe now if you're talking like the southeast
Sure.
portion of the United States, so listen, everywhere you go,
Yeah.
there's a Hampton,
Yeah.
but there's not
Mhm.
Hilton and Marriott properties in all the markets that there could be here in
Right.
the Pacific Northwest. We're a little bit
Yeah.
forgotten, maybe because we're so spread out up here. Sometimes you can drive a couple hours between some of these markets, not have much in between. You land a home two in one of these markets, or even a Hilton
Yeah.
Garden Inn. Man,
Yeah.
the Hilton
Mhm.
Garden Inn would be the Hilton in one of these college towns in
Mm.
our region. So yeah, there are
Yeah.
definitely still some markets out there that are right for the picking.
Where are those spaces that there's enough demand like that?
University campuses.
Yeah.
Those are a good starting spot, but then they
Mhm.
also obviously has to be business there to support a hotel as well on the
Right.
corporate side and the leisure
Right.
side as well. So
Mhm.
maybe not all university markets make sense, but there are plenty out there that do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Grant, thank you so much for being here today. Like
You're
yeah, I
welcome.
really appreciate just your openness. I see that you've found your thing, and I love like
Yeah.
seeing that you're just like fully lit up right now. You're fully in the space, and you're doing such a good job. So yeah, thank you for
Good
sharing
thing.
that with us.
Yeah, there's definitely a
Yeah.
passion that I have, and we try to feed that through all the way to
Yeah.
the entire organization of the hotel. Thank you,
Yeah.
Josh. Appreciate it.